I'm here with Melissa DaSilva, the president of TTC Tour Brands. Melissa, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Daniel.
Yeah, and I know we're talking about women over 50 travel a little bit today, which is a topic you're particularly passionate about. I was just curious, I mean, why is this a topic that you do have strong feelings about, and what makes it such a special segment?
Well, obviously, it's a segment that I'm personally very passionate about because that's exactly where I am. But also, I think, a recent study that we did with Journey Woman, which is a publication out of Canada, helped us gain a really good understanding of what those female travelers want. So that we could better support them and provide the experiences that they were looking for. But we're just inspired by these women who are so adventurous and brave and who want to get out there and see the world, regardless of whether or not they have somebody who wants to take that trip with them at the same time. But one of the things that we found when we did that study were that over 40% of the people that we talked to felt that our industry ignores solo women travelers, particularly those over the age of 50. That was something that was very
Wow.
eye-opening to us, because it has been a market that we've all been talking about in the industry for so long. And so it really showed us the potential for being able to create product for those women. And we also found that they're incredibly purposeful in their travel. They demonstrate a desire to have very meaningful experiences. They have a strong inclination towards exploration and getting off the beaten path. So, it was something that was very near and dear to my heart and really resonated with me.
Yeah, and I'd love to talk a little bit about specifically how they travel and, like you mentioned, the study you did, the needs and things like that. But I'm just curious, who is there a type of woman or type of traveler that makes up a large majority of this segment, or is it typical travel segment? I mean, we've heard a lot about girlfriend groups, heard a lot about solo travelers. Is it do they fall into those two categories, or do they fall into a separate category
It's
completely?
all of the above, Daniel. So, particularly though, the women who are over the age of, say, 55, we do see that many of those are recent widows, or divorced. But there are absolutely, moms traveling with daughters, nieces with their aunts, grandmas with multiple generations of women. And that really is what we're seeing. We're seeing a mix, but certainly of our solo travelers, 75% of them are actually women. So we're
Wow.
really finding that women gravitate towards guided vacations as a way for them to be able to get out and explore the world in a way that feels secure. It feels less stressful for them because there's not a lot of the planning that they need to do. So I think that that's why we appeal so much to solo women travelers in particular.
Yeah, and I'm just curious. I know it might be a difficult question for you to answer, but why do you think 75% of the solo travelers are women? Like, it seems like that's a more courageous thing to do to travel on your own. Why do you think that lends itself to these women more than it does the opposite sex?
And this is very, like you said, anecdotal. I don't know
Yeah.
why specifically. I can only speak again from the experience of the women that I've spoken to directly. But I do feel as though for women to travel independently, we feel a little bit less safe doing it without the
Makes
structure
sense.
of a tour around us. So we particularly find in those destinations that are seen as a little bit more difficult to travel independently as a woman. So, for example, lots of solo women traveling to Egypt, to Turkey, places where they maybe don't feel as though they would be as secure traveling independently. So I think it's not that there's 75% of the world's solo travelers are women, but certainly those that are traveling on the guided vacations are.
That makes sense. And like you mentioned, I'm sure it feels like you're seeing more and more women wanting to travel this way with TTC, things like that.
Yes.
So it seems like it's definitely a growing market, correct?
It is a growing market. And
Yeah.
I think the other thing that we realized was that we didn't really have the product that was needed to support that. So whether that was enough single rooms available, or just specifically, the other thing that we found during this survey was that the majority of those women would prefer to travel either on a women's only trip or a solos only trip. I think 65% of those women that we surveyed said that. So that really sent us down a path of adjusting our product and our experiences to really meet the needs of those travelers.
It does seem, I mean, with those stats, it does seem like there is a level of camaraderie on these trips that you wouldn't get if it was a different, if it wasn't an exclusive group of solo women travelers. Like it does seem like that lends itself to an easily people getting along, people having shared experiences, things like that.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I also think that there are a ton of, not just on our trips, but if you look out into different social groups, whether it be on Facebook or other, meetups, things like that. There are some
Yeah,
huge groups out there with like a million women who are solo women travelers that are all looking to connect with one another, share advice, share their experiences. So you're exactly right. They love to build those connections.
you're getting a large percentage of these women, or you're getting a more and more volume of this kind of traveler. I'm curious, I mean, what do they like about, you mentioned a little bit about it, but what do they like about this kind of travel? And also, do they tend to come back to TTC and want to travel in the same way over and over again?
Yeah, both. So I would
Yeah,
say women over 50, particularly those traveling solo, they really, as I mentioned, are going to prioritize destinations and accommodations that they perceive as safe and well lit. They're looking for, things that are reputable, destinations that have low crime rates.
interesting.
But when they're traveling with a Trafalgar or an Insight, they know that we are providing that safety as a top priority. They really love going out and exploring local markets. They love to indulge in shopping, but mostly they're wanting to have the same experiences as anybody else, which is those local immersive experiences. And where we try to make those special, and I think I'll talk a little bit. We're about to launch 11 new women's only trips with Insight Vacations. What we've done is we've really ensured that those experiences are going to be, for the most part, either women owned or women led, which I think makes that extra special. So you're still getting these really amazing experiences, which is what people want when they travel, but they also know that they're going to be giving back to those local communities and particularly the women in those local communities. So that's a really fun tie-in as well.
Yeah. And from hearing you speak about it, it does seem like this is a population of travelers that would lend itself to wanting to work with the travel advisor and to find these opportunities, whether it's with TTC or another tour operator. I'm just any words of advice for travel advisors who maybe want to start penetrating this market but don't have any idea where to start?
Absolutely. And as I
Yeah,
think I just touched on briefly, there is this growing audience of online users, and travel advisors can tap into that. So they can either engage in those online forums or groups, or they can even set them up themselves. So we've seen travel advisors have a lot of success setting up those forums in their own local communities. So
interesting.
they're building that group who are coming to them specifically for advice and to meet with other women that they have put them in touch with. So I think it either tap into those existing ones or go ahead and create them in your own community. And then, have just constant dialogue with them. It's not only about the time that they're planning their trip, but just remember that all year long, they're wanting to get inspired and hear from other women. And that's just going to be a wonderful way for you to tap in all year long to these women who are going out and exploring the world.
Yeah, really interesting. So you mentioned the new solo departures coming. Just two more questions. I mean, one, how typical are they to sell out very quickly? Like, should travel advisors be aware of when they're being released, things like that? And number two, is there anything else coming from TTC or any of the brands that you in particular want travel advisors to know about?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are going to be launching these trips in March around International Women's Day, but they're for 2025. So plenty of lead time for our travel advisors to get their guests on these trips. We have 11 new itineraries that we're going to be launching. They're not just solo, but they are women only. So like we were talking about before, if a
Yeah,
family wants to go, or with the mom and the grandma, or if it's a girlfriend's trip, that's all fine, but it will be women only. The travel directors will be women. The drivers, where at all possible, will be women. And as I mentioned, at least 3 of those experiences will be women owned or operated, but probably more because the majority of ours are anyway.
okay.
They do sell out because there are only going to be about 4 or 5 departures per itinerary at the moment that have been identified as women only, but we have really picked trips that we know women are going to love, because these are the trips that we already have a really high percentage of women traveling on as well. So yeah, I would say as soon as they're out there, start promoting them into their groups. We will also have a nice little sale linked to the launch when it goes live in March. So great opportunity.
Yeah.
In terms of other new things, I guess I would mention that we have, for the first time ever on Luxury Gold, we've been having a private sale, which is not being talked about publicly. So only our travel advisor partners are in the know and able to share that with their clients. So really great opportunity for them to shine, and the savings are significant on our Luxury Gold trips. And then for our Trafalgar and Insight brands, also, we just launched our Asia and Africa product for 2025-26. So we're really getting ahead of the game here.
And so International Women's Day, keep an eye out for these trips being launched.
Yes.
And yeah, Melissa, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. This is really such an interesting segment of the industry that, again, maybe goes unspoken about. I don't think it goes overlooked just by simply hearing you speak about it today, but on maybe behind the scenes. So it's great to hear your perspective on it too.
Thank you so much. I love talking about it.
All right. Well, yeah, take care. And I'll sure the advisors will be looking out for those trips being launched next month.
Perfect. Thank you so much.